The boy hesitated for a second, unsure why someone like Trask would want to sit with him, but he nodded. Trask sat down heavily, leaning back in the seat and glancing up at the massive holographic scoreboard as the next round of matches was announced. For a moment, neither of them spoke, both watching the crowd as the roar of the tournament filled the air. "You like the games?" Trask asked after a while, his eyes still on the arena below. The boy nodded quietly, clutching a small hollow screen in his lap, which was displaying the statistics of the competitors. "I used to dream of being in them," he admitted quietly, not looking up. "Before." His voice trailed off as he glanced at his leg, his pale fingers brushing against the metal. Trask nodded slowly, understanding without needing to ask. He had seen that same look in the eyes of soldiers who had returned from the front lines broken, physically or emotionally, wondering if their dreams were forever beyond their grasp. For some, they were. But Trask knew there were other ways to live those dreams, even if the path changed. "You know," Trask said after a long pause, "when I was your age, I wanted to be in the galactic fleet. My whole life, that's all I wanted. Thought I'd be a starship captain by the time I hit 20. He chuckled, though the sound was tinged with a kind of bitter nostalgia. "Turns out, fate had other plans." The boy looked up at him, curious now. "But you're a soldier, a hero." Trask shrugged, his gaze distant. "Yeah, I am, but that wasn't the plan. Lost my leg in my first year of the academy, just like you." He tapped his left leg, the faint sound of metal echoing through the mechanical prosthetic that he kept concealed under his trousers. "I was grounded for a year. They told me I'd never fly again, that I'd never see the stars." The boy's eyes widened. "But you did. You became famous. You fought in the wars." Trask turned to face him, his expression soft but serious. "Yeah, but I didn't get there the way I thought I would. Life threw me a curveball, and I had to find a new way forward. I could have let losing my leg stop me. I could have given up on everything I wanted, but I didn't. I found a way to keep moving, to keep fighting. It wasn't the life I expected, but it was still my life." The boy sat in stunned silence for a moment, processing Trask's words. "But how? I mean, how did you keep going?" Trask smiled faintly, leaning forward. "Because it's not about the leg or the arm or whatever you think you've lost. It's about you, what you're willing to fight for, how far you're willing to go to chase those dreams, even if they seem impossible. You can still be part of this, kid. Maybe not the way you imagined, but there's always a way." The boy looked down at his leg again, his hand resting on the cold metal. "But I'm not strong like you." The human shrugged. "I guess to someone who's never seen a dog before, he might look a little intimidating. But trust me, he's harmless. Dogs are loyal, friendly, and protective. He's my best friend." "Best friend?" Katara's voice softened, a note of curiosity replacing the fear. Her people did not have such relationships with animals. On Aloris, creatures lived in harmony with nature, but there was no concept of ownership or companionship in the way the humans seemed to describe it. Animals were respected, but not considered part of the family. "Yeah," the human said, a nostalgic smile on his face. "Bear's been with me for years, through thick and thin. He's helped me on missions, kept me safe during some of the roughest times. You see, humans and dogs have this really old bond, going back thousands of years. They've evolved alongside us, helping us hunt, protect, and even just keep us company." Katara tilted her head slightly, her tendrils uncurling just a bit as she listened. "Your species has had a partnership with this creature for that long?" "Yep. Dogs are special. They sense things, feel things, and they're fiercely loyal to the people they care about. Bear's more than just a pet. He's family." Family. That word made Katara pause. Her people placed great importance on family, on community. To hear that this fearsome creature, which looked like it could tear a Artel hunter in half, was considered family by the human, made her reassess everything she had assumed about him, and the dog. "May I touch him?" she asked, hesitantly stepping closer. Her heart still raced, but curiosity in the human's calm demeanor emboldened her. The human smiled warmly. "Sure, just be gentle. Let him sniff your hand first so he gets to know you." Katara cautiously extended one of her hands, her lavender skin trembling as she held it out to the massive creature. Bear sniffed the air for a moment, before lowering his great, shaggy head and sniffing her hand with curiosity. His nose was wet, and the sensation sent a shiver up her arm. Then, to her surprise, he nuzzled her palm, his tongue darting out to give her hand a slobbery lick. She let out a small gasp, but quickly composed herself. It wasn't fear that filled her this time, it was wonder. The beast was friendly? Bear leaned closer, nudging his head against her arm as if asking for more attention. Katara, still cautious but far less afraid now, gently stroked his fur. It was surprisingly soft beneath her fingers. "He's so warm," she murmured, more to herself than to the human. The human nodded. "Yep, dogs are like walking heaters. Great on cold nights, especially in space." Katara smiled faintly as Bear leaned into her touch, clearly enjoying the attention. The fear she had felt earlier melted away, replaced by a strange sense of calm. For the first time, she could understand why humans held such affection for these creatures. Bear wasn't a monster after all. He was something else entirely. Loyal, protective, and yes, maybe a little intimidating, but there was something deeply comforting about him. "You said he is your best friend?" Katara asked, still stroking Bear's fur. The human nodded. "Yeah, he's been with me through everything. It's funny, in a way. Back on Earth, there's a saying, man's best friend. It's been true for as long as we've had dogs. No matter where we go in the galaxy, that bond stays strong." Katara's tendrils floated softly around her head now, completely relaxed. She glanced up at the human, her dark eyes filled with newfound respect. "I never imagined such a creature could be so kind. Thank you for showing me." The human grinned. "No problem. Bear's got a way of making friends, even with people who've never seen a dog before. I'm glad you got to meet him." As Katara continued to pet Bear, she couldn't help but think about how strange and wonderful the universe was. So many different species, so many different ways of living and bonding, and yet, at the heart of it all, there was something universal about the connection between living beings, no matter how different they might seem. And as the massive dog leaned into her, nuzzling her gently, Katara realized that perhaps in the vast expanse of the galaxy, there was more to learn about life and friendship than she had ever imagined.